Hey friend, have you ever felt like you are called for more? There's more that you're supposed to be doing, but yet no door is open. You're saying, Lord, here I am. I'm ready. I'm ready. What are you going to do with me, right? Have you ever been there? Unfortunately, many women go through this. Many women experience this, and it really stops them because, they have all kinds of stories in their head about why things aren't going the way that they thought that they should. And we're going to cover that in this video today. But if you haven't been to my channel before, my name is Melanie Borbo, and I help women to remove emotional blocks so that they can walk in their purpose with confidence and peace instead of that striving hustle mentality. And we are going to dig into this topic about, why you feel called and nothing is happening. Now, I want to reassure you that calling and purpose are never forced, right? This is something that God sort of births in us and brings forward. And there's a reason why it doesn't always happen when we think it's going to happen. Now, this is not about being disobedient, right? I want you to really hear me when I say this, that sometimes when our purpose hasn't happened yet, or we haven't been able to find the steps to move into what we think God has called us to, it's not disobedience and it's not lack of faith either. But it really is about feeling safe in your identity. And that's really what I want to dig into today, because if we do not feel safe in who we are, everything that we try to do is going to be hard. It's going to be striving, right? Now, we're taught, many times we've been taught in our culture, in our world, that purpose comes from effort, from discipline, from readiness. But you know what? I don't really believe that, because I have witnessed firsthand how God has shown me something and given me the nudge to do something, and it has not gone the way that I thought it should go. And that was by divine design, because I believe that God had things for me to learn. He had to grow me in a certain way. So I've heard this from someone: God does not assign responsibility to someone who cannot yet hold it. Another way that I heard this said was God does not put weight on someone who cannot hold it, or something like that. But I kind of changed it into my own words, because to me it's true. Like, God will call us to do something. God will, but sometimes we have to be prepared, right? But we have to know what that thing is, or we have to have that nudge or that inkling before we're going to actually move forward in that direction. And so that's important to know, because many times, and many women will shut down. They think they've seen their purpose, their vision, their mission, and then when it doesn't go exactly as they planned, they want to shut down and stop because they think it must be wrong. And I can say that with a lot of authority, because that has been me so many times in my life, where I've been like, okay, God gives me the nudge, and then I just want to run for it. I just want to go for it with everything that I have, but I don't have all the pieces, and I don't have the capacity either. And so then what happens is I run ahead of God and I get burned out. I get derailed. And then I think I have to start over again, or I have to find a new coach or a new mentor or a new program or a new something to kind of get me where I want to go. That has happened for me so many times. And it's because I didn't understand that I had to wait for God to build that capacity in me. So I hope this video helps you to realize, before you run ahead of him, or before you run ahead of him again, that your delay is not punishment, but it might actually be protection. So what is feeling safe in your identity? What does that actually mean? Well, I wrote down some things. So it means feeling emotionally safe to be seen. Now, think about it. If God is calling us to do something and we do not feel safe to be seen, we're gonna really push hard against anything that is outward facing. So doing a video like this, for instance, would be an absolute no-go for some people. And it took me a long time to be able to get on here and do this. There could be multiple things that we don't want to be seen in or at, or, showing up as. And until we can do that, we can't really, truly have the capacity to do what God's calling us to do. Another thing that being safe in your identity means is to feel worthy without performance. Whoa, what does that mean? Feeling worthy without performance. Because think about it. How many of us think we have to be super mom? We have to be the most amazing cook, the most amazing house cleaner. We have to have Martha Stewart little houses. We have to have the perfect family. We have to have, our highlight reel on social media is supposed to be like over the top. And we think that because we've done all those things that we're worthy then to do what God's called us to do. But that's not the way that it is in the Bible. He calls, He calls the qualified. He doesn't he qualifies the called. He doesn't call the qualified. So that means he grows us. He grows our capacity. He grows our abilities, our skills, right? So it has nothing to do with us necessarily, except that we are going to be obedient to him. That's really all it has to do with. Another one is feeling regulated enough to lead, to speak, to build, to teach, all the things. We have got to be regulated. We have got to know how to handle our emotions. We've got to know how to take control of our thoughts. We've got to know, these are important skills that we have to have. Feeling internally secure enough to carry responsibility. Because if we're not internally secure, if we don't know, whose we are, it's going to be really hard to carry that responsibility. And I know that from experience, because I remember when God gave me a vision of this wellness center. I saw all these little cabins around this lake, and I saw this big building that was going to be like the classroom kind of, and the kitchen, and the the rooms for different healing modalities and things like that. I saw this whole thing. I even had the name, like everything, and it wasn't because I was asking God. I was out cutting grass. I wasn't doing anything, and this showed up for me. And I remember thinking, I can't, Lord. I can't. I don't know anything about that. I don't know the first thing about doing any of that stuff. But again, he groomed me and grew my capacity, because I started to really entertain the idea. We started looking at properties. We started figuring out how to get a property, permission to have it rezoned. Like all of these things that I never knew how to do. God was growing me. Did that ever come to fruition? Not yet. And that was probably 8 or 9 years ago, maybe 7 or 8 years ago already. And I still don't see it. But, and that's something that I will always question, like, Lord, why did I go through all that stuff? Except I think that it put me in a position, it increased my capacity to know that I could do hard things, to know that I could do scary things. And so, like, even me being here now, that's all stemmed from what I learned doing what I did, right? Now, if your identity feels fragile, purpose is going to feel threatening, not inspiring. Because when you think about your purpose, many of us think, oh, I'm so excited, I'm going to do this thing. But you know what? It's scary. It is scary sometimes when God calls you to do something that you're not ready for, or you don't feel like you're ready for. And it's even scarier when you think you are ready and God says you're not, or shows you that you're not, right? Then you're like, what? I don't know what else I'm supposed to do. What am I supposed to be doing, right? So I want you to remember that God works with our design. He doesn't work against it. God created us. He knit us in it together in our mother's womb. He knows us better than we know ourselves. And so when we think about that God is working with how he created us, what he designed us to do, the skills that he's given us, the experience that he's allowed us to go through. When we think that he's working with that design and not against it, it's really, really a beautiful thing, right? Because safety is always going to come before stewardship. If we truly don't feel safe in who we are, or in our, like whose we are, I love to say that, whose we are as opposed to who we are, because to me it's not about me, it's about who's in me. But we can't really be good stewards until we feel safe, till we feel like that we know where we're going, kind of, right? Now, why may God be protecting you from this early activation of a purpose? And I want to tell you, friend, it is to protect you. It absolutely is. God has our best and our highest interests at heart all the time. And sometimes we don't see that. Sometimes we want to just think that we know better, and that, God, you should listen to me because I know how to do this, right? He knows. But here's the thing. Exposure can amplify wounds. So if we have things in our life that we haven't dealt with, haven't looked at, haven't, even attempted to ask God to help us heal, all of a sudden, when we start to get out there and things get exposed to us, or we meet resistance or whatever, it's going to amplify whatever is inside of us. And so until we're healed and ready and whole, God might just be protecting us from the very thing that he's actually calling us to do, because it might actually self-destruct. We might self-destruct if we go ahead without him and push forward. Another thing that visibility, or another thing that he might be protecting us from, is that visibility without safety creates burnout. Now, this is where the striving comes in and the hustle comes in and the, performance-based whatever activity comes in. And if we don't feel like safe in our identity, then that visibility is going to be exhausting to us, because we're going to feel like we have to be everywhere. We're going to feel like we have to do everything. I've been there, right? You should be on every social media site. You should be doing every single thing. It's just not sustainable. Some people can do it maybe, but usually the people that are everywhere doing everything have a team of people that are helping them, or at least somebody else that's helping them. So don't beat yourself up, friend. Just allow this to unfold. Allow this to be what it is supposed to be, which is a journey. It is a journey. Leadership without regulation leads to collapse. So that's another reason that God might be protecting, you from your purpose, me from my purpose, whatever, is that when people get into a place of leadership, if they're not actually ready, if they haven't built that foundation, they will collapse. You think about the in the Bible, the story of the house built on the sand and the house built on the rock. Well, the house built on the sand collapsed as soon as the rain came, right? As soon as the storm hit, that house on the sand collapsed. But the house on the rock is firm. The storms come, the winds come, it is firm. And that's what God wants us to be. When he calls us to do something, he wants us to be firm on him specifically, but also to know that we have the capacity. We can carry responsibility. We can do hard things. He needs to get us there before we can actually do hard things. We have to believe it first, right? So God isn't withholding your purpose. He's actually, as I've mentioned already, he's building capacity. He's building us up to be who we need to be in order to carry that load. It's a beautiful thing. Absolutely beautiful thing. Now, what are some signs that you may not yet feel safe in your identity? You have a fear of being seen. You might overthink obedience. I did that lots, where I'm like, well, what if this isn't the right thing? Maybe I better not do it. What if that's not the right thing? What if this isn't the right time? What if I shouldn't say that? I just was overthinking everything until God kind of got a hold of me and said, wait, you are being disrespectful by not being obedient. I'm telling you to do something, and you're so concerned about doing it wrong and upsetting me that you're not doing anything. I was like, okay, Lord, I get it. That was a loud and clear message for me. Another thing is that procrastination may we may have procrastinate things that we know are aligned actions, right? We know that God has called us to do something. We know that nudge is, do this, right? We keep hearing it. People keep confirming it. And we just keep going, not today, maybe tomorrow. I'm a little busy today. I got a headache today. Do you see? You get that, right? You've probably been there. Another one is needing external validation all the time, right? It's one thing to get feedback, but it's another to need so much external validation that you actually can't move forward on your own. That's not really that acceptable. It's not really that good. So these are not flaws, friend. I want you to understand that, and I want you to hear that. These are not flaws. These are signals that protection does not equal punishment, does not even mean punishment. So I want you to hear that, right? There are things that we should be seeing and looking for. It just means that we have some more work to do. That's all. So what can you focus on instead, right? You want to learn emotional regulation. You want to learn how to trust yourself and trust the grace that God has put on you. You want to have your identity rooted in him, right? In him. You want to have discernment instead of striving. So these things are all going to lead. So when you learn how to regulate your emotions, you learn how to trust in the grace that God has given you. You learn how to have your identity rooted, and you learn how to have discernment without striving. And we do all of this stuff we do inside the community. In fact, If this has resonated with you, if this message, then you should really come into the community this week. Every week, actually, we are doing a free training, but I'm going to dig deeper specifically on this topic on our live training this week in the community. And there's a replay. So if you're watching this, whatever months down the road, it's okay. They'll all be recorded and in the community. But it's a free community. Come on in there. We're just digging in. We're really digging into this whole removal of emotional blocks and walking in purpose and identity, restoring identity and alignment and all these things. So remember, when identity becomes safe, purpose flows naturally. So that's what I want to leave you with, friend. And if you're still wondering, if you're still sitting on a fence and you don't know, like, is it just emotional blocks or am I actually still in a mental health crisis? I have created a simple little mini course. You can get the worksheet. I'll put that in the show notes below, or in the description below. You can get that, just download it, no email, nothing. And then if you want the videos to go with that, they are actually inside the community. So 2 reasons, 3, 4, 5 reasons to come into the community. So my friend, I pray that this blesses you, and I look forward to seeing you on the inside. Okay, take care. And remember, I'm praying for you. God bless.